Hey guys, welcome back to Matthew's Ballistics. I went and shot yesterday, shot the 338 Lapua, and also shot the Ruger American Ranch 5.56. And we had some good results and we had some poor results. So first off, I'm going to start out by saying that I figured out the issue I was having on my Savage Elite 110 338 Lapua. And it turns out the the scope base was, or the rail, on top of the rifle was actually loose. It was tight enough that you couldn't see it or feel it by touch. Um, but when I actually, I went back through the rifle, took it all back apart, and then retorqued everything down. And that was the last thing I looked at. And I realized when I went to take it off and then retorque it, the screws mounting it onto the receiver were just barely tight enough. Like, you could take two fingers on the screwdriver and turn it, and they loosened right up. So not anywhere close to torque specs, and got that all tightened down and situated, and then when we went to the range, I had 10 rounds that I had loaded with the 285 grain ELDM, and I'm running 100 grains of H50 BMG at a 3.714 COAL, which is the maximum length I can run in the magazine. And this is what we got. So I shot one round and it hit here, and then shot two more to make sure that that was where the group was doing and that it's actually going to group this time. It did pretty well, so moved it over, shot a couple more, nice little tight spot, moved the scope down just a little bit, shot two here. Now, and then I moved it over a little bit closer to zero, which I could have went probably another solid click and would have had it more in line with zero. But what I did notice was the zero stop. I guess with this powder charge and this bullet, the zero stop is set a little bit high. It's set about an inch higher. So, but I shot this 3-round little group here, and it very nice and very tight. These shots were actually a 6.5 Creedmoor. You can tell there's a difference between the hole size, but these 5 shots were testing out some rounds that in my dad's rifle. So in his little Savage Axis 6.5 Creedmoor, he wanted me to shoot it, and so that's what those are from. But this was the 338 Lapua, the 10 rounds that I was able to shoot, with the last 3 being right there. So tightened up a lot. This isn't enough to really get it dialed in and really know what it's doing, but it's going to give me a pretty good idea that this load with this powder is actually going to work for the 285 grain bullet. So now from there, I went on to shoot some Alco 77 grain rubated boat tail ultra low drag 5.56 rounds. It's important to note on these is that I seated the bullets very far out. They are much too long to actually fit in the magazine. My seating depth is 2.578 inches, and I'm using 24.3 grains, which is normally a maximum load, but the seating the bullet out further increases case capacity and therefore lowers pressure. So I think I can go up in pressure a little bit with this powder. Probably not more than about another half a grain or so before it starts showing that the signs of being at maximum pressure. But right now it's at a very comfortable pressure. There's absolutely no signs of pressure at all, and it's shown to be pretty accurate. Also important to note that the brass that I use is Lake City brass. It's not like a match grade brass at all, like you would get if you're shooting some Hornady brass or like some Lapua brass or something like that. So this is just very, very massively produced military grade brass, which is in a lot of cases, military grade just basically means the lowest bidder. So, that being said, I did not weigh any of the brass out. All I did was took it, measured it, trimmed it all the same length, and we got what I think is a pretty decent result starting out. Also, the barrel on this rifle's not broke in yet. I want to say it's got about 50 or 60 rounds through it, so it's probably going to take 100 or even a couple hundred rounds for this thing to really settle in and get comfortable. So let's take a look at this one. Alright, so this is the same inch, and I believe this is a little under an inch and a half, or about an inch and a half diameter is what I typically use, whether it's at 100, 200, 300, because at 100 yards it's 1.5 MOA, at 300 yards it's a half MOA. So my first round hit way high up here, and that's because the last time I had this rifle out, I was shooting at 300 yards. So I went ahead and moved it down about 4 minutes, about 16 clicks, and it was still shooting a little bit high. I shot 4 rounds. So all I did was left it sitting on the bipod with the rear bag under it, stabilized looking at this, and then I carefully adjusted the turrets to where the crosshairs matched on this bullet hole right here, and then I went back to shooting and shot 17 more rounds at this circle, and as you can tell, there's some pretty tight shooting in there. I got a couple different, there was a pretty good extreme spread and velocity, and that would easily explain the difference in the vertical dispersion. The horizontal dispersion is much, much less, and you can actually tell that even with the vertical dispersion, it's pretty clean. Like, this is going to be a very promising load. These loads were running about 2,450 feet per second. They ranged between 2,350 and about 2,500, but 2,450 was about the average that I got. Sorry, the low end was probably a little higher than that. It's probably about 2370, 2380. But, yeah, these are going to turn out good. These 77 grain Alco rebated boat tail ultra low drag bullets are going to be great for 5.56 or 223. The only downside is that the bullets are extremely long, and I like to seat them as long as I can, and seating them out to 2.578 seemed to work pretty good so far. I'm going to work with the powder charge a little bit and see if it changes anything up. So moving on from that, the downside, the only poor thing that we saw was with the Alco 250 grain rebated boat tail ULDs in the 338 Lapua, and I only had 5 left loaded of that, and I was shooting, and the grip size is not very good. It's pretty big. It's about 7 or 8 inches or so spread, 7 or 8 inches wide and about 6 inches tall, so more of a horizontal dispersion than there is a vertical dispersion. But aside from that, when we really started looking at the holes in the target, I mean, it seriously looks like the bullets are going in at a little bit of an angle. The holes are a little bit oval. They're not perfectly round like in the other target. And they're kind of different angles, every one of them on this target. And if you look real close, you can see. So, I'll show you what I'm talking about. There's our 1.5 inch center hole there, or target, and then the 5 big holes obviously are 338 Lapua. The 2 small ones are a 6.5 Creedmoor. But if you can tell how sharp and clean this edge is, and then how kind of elongated and busted this edge of that hole is, it kind of tells you that the round went in. It didn't go straight in, it kind of went in at an angle like that, so when it hit. And the same thing here. You know, it's got a real clean, sharp edge on one side, and then it's a little wider, or, you know, where the side of the bullet hit the target a little bit. And then same here, real clean edge there, and then wider at the bottom. And then on this one, real clean edge there, and then wider at the bottom where it tore through the target at a little bit of an angle. And then on the last one here, the same thing happened. So, having some stability issues. These were the 250 grain Alco rebated boat tails, and I actually messed up. These weren't at 103 grains, they were at 104.5 grains of H50 BMG. So I talked to Bill at Alco about this problem, and he said that he was actually out shooting, or with a guy that was shooting some of his bullets, and between them and another guy, they've come to the conclusion that possibly, well, it's actually it makes a lot of sense, but the powder that I'm running is so slow burning that it may work good for heavier bullets, but going down to a 250 grain bullet, it's not going to work as well to get it stabilized because it's burning so slow, and it's not getting the velocity up as high as it needs to be. And it could be because at at 100 grains behind the 285s, we were getting about 2,750 feet per second, give or take. And then at 104.5 grains behind a 250, we were getting about 2,870. You know, not quite 2,900. And with a 250 grain bullet shooting it out of a 30-inch barrel that's on my rifle, we should be able to, you know, see close to 3,000, maybe a little over 3,000 feet per second. But time will tell. We've just got some more working to do, but these guys are pretty confident that H1000 would be the powder to really get it to work right. That, you know, Rotumbo or H50 BMG or US 869 that I've been trying to work with, it's just gonna burn too slow, and that it's gonna, you know, it may work better with a heavier bullet like the 285 Hornady ELDs, these big old guys, but as far as the lighter bullets, the 250 grain bullet area, it may not work as well. Now, there's one thing I can do to confirm that. I happen to have some 225 grain Barnes. I believe they, what are these? They're the TSX, and they're a flat based, but they're like more of a hunting type projectile, but they're very light. They're 225 grains, which is super light for a 338 Lapua. So the only thing I can think to do is maybe load a couple of those, stuff them over some of this H50 BMG, and if we have similar results where they're just not stabilizing or grouping well, who knows? Maybe, you know, they're onto something. Maybe we need a little bit faster powder, or a little bit more flexible powder, or something that'll work with a wider range of bullet weights. So the struggle continues with the 338 Lapua. I hope you guys stay tuned, and I hope you guys enjoy these videos. With that being said, we'll see you next time. Bye.